Imagine a place where hearing a gunshot is the most normal thing in the world. A place where violence is allowed to exist, as long as you call it sport. That place is Blackbird State Forest in Delaware. In September of 1986, it was peak hunting season. The forest was alive with noise. Men carrying rifles, distant shouts, the crack of branches under heavy boots, and echoes that bounced endlessly between the trees. For anyone walking there, the sound of a shot was not a warning sign. It was background noise, routine. And that routine was the perfect camouflage for a killer. For almost 40 years, silence covered the death of Jane Prichard. People knew she had died, yes, but the details were lost in the fog of a cold case. Now, however, in November 2025, new revelations published in People magazine have thrown a harsh, brutal light on what really happened. It was not a hunting accident. It was not a stray bullet. It was a calculated execution that took place in broad daylight, hidden in plain sight behind the normal sounds of the forest. To understand the gravity of this story, we have to understand who was walking through that forest. Jane Marie Prichard was not a hunter. She wasn't wearing a blaze orange safety vest. She didn't have a rifle slung over her shoulder. She was 28 years old and a brilliant master's student at the University of Maryland. Her world wasn't violence, it was science. She was there for a purely academic reason, her thesis on botany and native plant life. Blackbird Forest is not a manicured city park. It's a dense, wild stretch of American oaks and hickories, with dirt paths that vanish quickly into the undergrowth. In September, the foliage is still thick, forming green and copper walls that block your view after just a few meters. For a botanist like Jane, it was a paradise of biodiversity. From a criminal point of view, it was a trap, a place full of blind spots where someone can stand 3 meters away from you and you would never know they were there. Jane was working alone in a laboratory without walls. At 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, September 20th, Jane parked her blue and white Chevrolet Blazer on one of the access roads. She unloaded her gear with a scientist's precision, a field notebook, measuring instruments, and a camera. Her plan was scientifically complex. She was running an experiment on how lack of light affected native flora. To do that, she had to set up shade cloths over specific plants and monitor their response over time. And this is crucial for understanding the crime. Jane was not wandering aimlessly through the woods. She was stationary, fixed in one small area, focused on building those structures, her head bent down over her work. To anyone watching from the cover of the trees, she wasn't a passing hiker. She was a static target, distracted, completely vulnerable. The morning passed normally. Jane moved roughly 365 meters into the forest, away from the road. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, the last confirmed contact took place, and it's a detail that hurts. A local hunter didn't just see her, he spoke to her. Jane, fully aware she was in an active hunting area and worried about her safety, approached him and politely asked which direction he planned to shoot so she could go and work in exactly the opposite direction. That witness became a key piece for the police. He confirmed that Jane was alive, calm, and above all, careful. She did everything right. She actively tried to stay out of danger without realizing that the real danger was already behind her. At 10 in the morning and late afternoon, Jane's routine was shattered. Witnesses in the area reported hearing 2 sharp gunshots, but no one was alarmed. In Blackbird Forest, 2 gunshots usually mean one thing: someone just got lucky hunting. As evening fell, 2 campers found Jane's body in the undergrowth. The obvious first questions were, was this a hunting accident, a stray bullet? The answer, as later confirmed by the report cited in People magazine, was a resounding no. Ballistics told a very specific story. Forensic experts determined that the weapon used was a 20-gauge shotgun. That detail matters. A 20-gauge is a light gun, commonly used for small game, squirrels, birds. It's not the heavy rifle you'd expect from a deer hunter. Jane had been hit in the back and in the neck. This was not a single, distant, erratic shot. These were direct hits to vital areas. She bled to death. Whoever pulled the trigger did not mistake her for an animal. They wanted to make sure she did not walk out of that forest alive. The use of that light 20-gauge shotgun has long suggested a disturbing psychological profile to investigators. Because it isn't a typical high-powered deer rifle, It suggests that the killer may not have been a seasoned big game hunter looking for a trophy. It suggests someone who went into the woods with a light gun, perhaps to shoot small animals, or perhaps simply looking for something to kill. Using small game ammunition at that range against a human being points to a lethal opportunism, using whatever you have in your hands to destroy a life just because you decide to. The New Castle police closed off the area. Despite decades of searches and sweeps with metal detectors, there is no public record that the murder weapon was ever recovered. The killer did not drop the shotgun and run in a panic. He took it with him. And there was something else that ruled out robbery completely. The killer left the gold. Jane was still wearing her rings and a valuable watch. The person who did this had to be close enough to see that jewelry clearly and chose not to take it. Whoever killed her didn't want her money. They wanted her life. Faced with a crime like this, the police did what they always do. They looked at the inner circle. They investigated her husband thoroughly. But any hope of a quick resolution evaporated. His alibi was rock solid. He was in Maryland, miles away, confirmed by multiple witnesses. This was not a domestic crime. It was a crime of opportunity committed by a stranger in the woods. The strongest remaining lead is a man who didn't fit. Several witnesses reported seeing a man in the area, a white male around 30 years old, wearing metal-rimmed glasses and a plaid flannel shirt. What set him apart wasn't just his face, it was his clothing. In the middle of a hunting season, he was not wearing blaze orange safety gear. He did not look like someone who was there for the animals. What really chills you about this sighting is not the outfit, but the attitude that must have followed. Killing someone at 10 in the morning in a public forest takes a particular kind of cold blood. That man would have had to walk back to his vehicle with the weapon still warm, possibly passing other hikers on the trail, put the shotgun calmly into his trunk, and drive home with a steady pulse. He didn't run screaming through the brush in panic. He melted back into the routine of a Saturday afternoon, as if nothing had happened. He blended back in with the rest of us. Despite a composite sketch and the reopening of the case in 2015 with new DNA technologies, that man has never been identified. Today, in 2025, the case is still active and the reward is still on the table. Someone in Delaware knows who the man in the plaid shirt is. Now we know more details than ever. We know it was a light shotgun. We know she was shot from behind while she was working on her plants. We know Jane was careful. And yet none of that saved her. Knowing how she died is not the same as knowing who killed her. The murderer of Jane Prichard took advantage of the perfect camouflage, an environment where death is a sport. Someone drove home that Saturday, cleaned their shotgun, and has kept a secret for almost 40 years. Jane died because the sound of her death was indistinguishable from the background noise of the forest. No one was alarmed by the gunshot because gunshots were normal there. And that is a brutal metaphor for how we live today. We are surrounded by so much informational noise, constant alerts, endless breaking news, daily outrage on social media, that we've lost the ability to tell the urgent from the merely loud. The perfect camouflage of the 21st century isn't silence, it's too much noise. If someone screamed for help right next to us today, would we hear it? Or would we assume it's just one more sound in the city? Don't let the noise stop you from seeing what's real. Subscribe to the Case File Voice to keep searching for the truth hidden in the undergrowth. In our next episode, we'll open the case file of Graham Thorne, a kidnapping so strange that forensic science had to reinvent itself just to solve it.